looks like I'm in somebody's dungeon. Don't worry, this is just my new apartment. And it has these exposed brick walls, which apparently people pay a lot of money for. I did not know this. And it was actually originally the reason that I didn't like this apartment. So, and I'm thinking I was right because I've hit my head on it twice so far. So if I appear concussed, that's why. So it's that time of year, you know, the part of the year where we reflect, where we feel bad about ourselves because we didn't reach our goals, and where we make new ones anyway. So actually, no, I don't feel bad about anything. I gave it a pretty darn good try this year, given, you know, everything that happened. Round of applause for Elise, can we? For yourself as well. Yeah, in today's video, I kind of just want to yap my flap and talk about just a little bit about how things went this year, but I'm really not interested in that. I'm more interested in talking about next year, because there's something new and shiny that I've been hiding from you, so it's more interesting, I promise. Quick resumen to everything that went down this year. So my goals for this year, let's not quote me word for word, but basically I wanted to get my French C1 certificate, which I did. I passed that shit, so I can say that I was successful on that front. However, I think it took away my soul for language learning for like the rest of the year, because honestly, those like intense couple months of studying, honestly, I would say it's more than I study in the length of like 6 months, and I had done it in like 2.5 months. So, you know, I got that, but at what cost? I wanted to get B1 in Turkish. Didn't happen. But I feel like I kind of neglected my own principles with Turkish, because one of my things that I always recommend to people that are beginners is like, hey, you should work with a good like guided beginner's resource. And I didn't really ever do that with Turkish, and it's a shame because there's so many good courses out there. Turkish Lev, for example, which I'm gonna be doing their course next year. So the fact that, I don't know, it's weird, like I feel like I was just kind of floating in the primordial existential goop with Turkish, and it's my own fault because I didn't really give myself the kind of push that I recommend for people. So I spent a lot of time not knowing where to study, and it's because I wasn't doing that. So next year we fix that. And then German, I also wanted to get my C1 certificate in German, but you know what, guys, this one isn't really my fault. And also I think I'm swearing off bureaucracy at this point, because why is the Goethe Institute exam $300? Hello? Oh my god. Is a meal included? Shit. No, the real problem is that the Goethe Institute in Chicago, where I live, they have not offered the C1 exam in literally over 1.5 years. I don't know what is going on. I think they're making a new C1 exam, and so they just haven't offered it. And I've considered, you know, traveling to another city to take it, but the test is already $300. Why would I do that? And it's kind of stupid because I should have just been studying the way I would study to get to C1 on my own, you know, and try. But for some reason I thought, like, you know, okay, once I have the date, I will just study according to that date. Kind of like a preparation countdown type thing. And the fact that I never got to register kind of just affected it. And that was kind of stupid. You know, you don't have to have that condition to study well. But the thing is, with German, I think I finally realized the missing puzzle piece that I've kind of known about deep down, but willingly ignored, is that I just have to consume authentic content every single day and read my eyeballs out and just exist in the German speaking world and stop thinking about it as a language that I'm learning. I have to stop doing learning stuff and just absorb. Am I making sense? Those were really my only language, my primary why did I say it like that? My primary languages for 2023. I also had it on my list to dabble in 3 languages. They were Arabic, Mandarin, and Hebrew. So yeah, I just didn't get up to it with Hebrew and Chinese. Sorry guys. Heritage and like family languages are just a curse, because since there's like external pressure, my brain is like, I have to be internally motivated. But with Arabic, I actually kind of did it this year, y'all. I've kind of wanted to learn Arabic for a long time. I talk about this all the time. My sister Mary, she speaks fluent Arabic, and so I get a lot of exposure just through, you know, talking and interacting with her as well. But I visited her in Jordan this year. She doesn't live in Jordan anymore. She moved to a different Arabic speaking country, which I won't disclose, I guess, for her privacy. But yeah, I visited her in September. It was literally only like a week that I was there, but it was just so immersive. Honestly, it was such a motivating experience as well, because in like a week I learned to read the alphabet pretty darn good. I know more than just shukran now. What do I know? Assalamu alaikum? I feel like I'm saying that not good. Assalamu alaikum? That sounded German. Oh my god. Khalas. I think that is the Arabic word of 2023, and also always, because that is such a Levantine Arabic thing. Like khalas, like stop, it's over, finished. It means so many different things. Like it's done, agreed. It's like how in Guatemala, you know how they say cabal?
Es como una afirmación cabal. También cabal lo usamos como, por ejemplo, cuando alguien te da un billete y le devuelves el vuelto, entonces No sé cómo decirlo, güey.
So yeah, that is the resumen. You know, I keep saying resumen in Spanish because in English, because of that word in Spanish, resumen, it makes me want to say resume, which that's not what resume means. It means a CV, but it just sounds so much better. Like, what even is the word? I always forget the word in English for that now. Summary. That sounds too like... But now, let's talk about the mystery language. I am so giddy about this, and not just because it's new and shiny. Of course that's fun. The experience of being a beginner again is fun. But I really am trying to be very lucid about this. I have notes. Okay, let me get my notes out. So... Salam. That's the language. If you know, you know. No, I'm kidding. The language is Farsi. This is kind of way out in the left field for me. Never really expressed an interest in Farsi before, and that's because everything has happened really kind of fast. So let's go in a chronological order of how this came to be. This being the actual commitment to learn, because if I'm saying it out loud on my YouTube channel, I know that if I ever mention a language publicly, you guys will not stop asking me about it for years. I have not studied Hebrew in over a year, and you guys still ask me about it, and I feel bad. But anyways, the fact that I'm mentioning this out loud, it indicates some type of commitment, okay? I think this time. So the thing with Farsi is I kind of got my first contact with it through Turkish, and I know that's going to trigger some Turkish people because Turks very much like their language to be regarded as separate from Turkish and Arabic, but they do share a lot of vocab, and that's okay. Like, languages coexist. But yeah, you know, I would encounter, like, in the process of learning Turkish, I would encounter words and I'd be like, this doesn't feel like a Turkish word. Where does this come from? And then I would look up, you know, blah 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 etymology, and it would say Farsça, and I was like, Farsi, huh? So regarding prior knowledge, there's the shared vocabulary with Turkish that kind of got me curious about it a little bit. And then there's also the fact that I know how to write, kind of, in Arabic. Because Farsi and Arabic, they share a lot of the same letters. I think not all of them. There are some letters that are specific to Farsi, I think. With the knowledge for the Arabic vocabulary, you can also learn to read Farsi. You know what I think about sometimes that is kind of interesting is the language chain theory. And this is not an actual theory. I just made it up right now. But it's basically how, like, all of my languages eventually lead me to another language that I want to learn. Because, you know, I started learning German, and that was fun. And then I went to Germany and I heard Turkish spoken because there's so many Turks in Germany, and I was like, sounds cool, I want to learn that. And so I started learning Turkish, and now through Turkish I've gotten exposure to Farsi and stuff, and that's not the only reason, but you know, in a way Turkish has also led me to this other language, so it's just interesting, you know. I don't know, has anybody else experienced that in the comments? Have you guys like built on your languages and gotten interested in new languages because of languages coexisting that you already speak? Let me know. So yeah, there's the prior knowledge, and that's kind of been accumulating since I started learning Turkish in April of 2022. Why do I remember this specific month? I remember it because that was right when I was about to graduate college, and I was like, finally I have time for another language. Oh my god, what a time to be alive. But yeah, it was accumulating, but then at the beginning of this year is when I really got more of an interest, not just in Farsi, but also Iran. And yes, I know Iran is not the only Farsi speaking region or country, but she's the biggie, shall we say. Or is Iran a boy? He? In German, it's Der Iran. Anyways, at the beginning of this year, I remember it was literally like the second day of the year, January 2nd or something like that. I was at the public library, and this random book on the shelf kind of just jumped out at me, and it was this book. Allow me to open my Kindle because we read ebooks in this house. This book, Things I've Been Silent About by Azar Nafisi. Azar? I think it's Azar. And I learned a lot about Iran and Farsi through this book, and just like, you know, literature in Farsi through this book. But it's not really about those things per se, it's a memoir. So this is about like her upbringing and her parents and like her personal life growing up in both the pre and post-revolutionary Iran. And I just remember being really entranced by the way that she writes and the things about Iran and Iranian culture that she would mention, even though I know it's kind of controversial the way that she represents Iran to a Western audience. I just think her writing is pretty interesting, and I intend to read more of her books. But that was my first kind of taste of like actual Iran from the perspective of an Iranian person, because as an American, I feel like I don't know, there's something so alluring about a country that you were never really properly given the chance to get to know just for itself, like not the country in the context of your country, because the US and Iran have terrible relations. Actually, we have no relations. But yeah, like regarding Iran, like growing up in school and in like the media, we don't really learn about Iran as Iran. It's always talked about, I feel like, in the context of just the general Middle East, and also which includes the Arabic speaking countries. And for the longest time, I literally didn't realize that there's a, you know, a different language and culture. Well, of course there's a different culture in every country, but you know, regarding like language and culture around around language and stuff. Okay, so now let's get to the meat of the video. I know y'all want to talk about this. So the tea is, and this is between friends, this is between me and you, okay? I'm dating an Iranian. No, I swear, you guys, I swear, that's not why, okay? Hear me out. So it's not because, you know, I feel like learning a language because of someone, I don't like that concept. That's not something that I do. And even at the beginning of our relationship, I was like, don't try to teach me Farsi. I'm not gonna learn Farsi. That's a language boundary. Respect it. And I tried it for a minute, but you know, curiosity, you know, you just can't suppress it. My view of it is just that dating an Iranian has kind of catalyzed the inevitable, you know, because I really am interested in the history and the culture as well. Let me just say, the number one discovery that I've made about Iranian culture since kind of, you know, dating an Iranian and getting into closer quarters with it is its similarity with Southern American culture, like Southern United States. Okay, there's this thing called Tarof. It has its own Wikipedia page. You can Wikipedia it. It's like very competitive Southern hospitality. It's insane. And this was kind of an interesting discovery we had early on. We were like, why do we both feel this way? Why do we both do these certain things? And it's because of Tarof and Southern culture. The kind of controversy that people always talk about surrounding, you know, learning a language in a relationship with a person that speaks that language is, you know, what if you guys break up? You're just gonna have all this, you know, language skills and context and memories that remind you of that person. But me, I plan to keep my learning pretty separate from him. Of course, I'm gonna use the shit out of him for practice, but, you know, I want to learn on my own. I want to develop my own relationship with the language, and I really like to just build my own, like, world and my own experience in language. And the fact that the cultural connection and the cultural interest came first is such a key thing, and I feel like it's a good omen because, for example, you know, I cannot learn a language that I do not have a cultural relationship with, because, for example, I know everybody remembers when I tried to learn Korean at the beginning of 2019. You know, although I was interested in it linguistically, there was no cultural interest, and I was just, I don't know, I was just not titillated, so to speak. Oh, and speaking of culture, Iranian music is so good, bro. And no, I'm not just talking about June Khodet, even though I do love that song. There's just so much good music in Farsi, and also there's so much good poetry. I'm a slut for poetry. So that's something that motivates me to keep going, is the fact that, you know, eventually I will be able to partake in things like music and poetry and culture on a larger level. You know what? Let me stop speaking so grandly, because the thing is, you know, I'm not committing forever. I'm just committing to trying it out and giving it a good shot, you know? So let's talk about how I'm actually going to learn Farsi in the new year. I don't know if you guys know this page or this website, Chai and Conversation. This is such a good resource for anybody who wants to start learning Farsi from zero, or maybe if you already have a knowledge of Farsi, if, you know, you're Persian and you just never learned the language, stuff like that. This is such a good resource. So Layla, the founder of Chai and Conversation, every once in a while she does these 6-week boot camps, and they're completely free. You get like a 2.5 month subscription to Chai and Conversation. You can access all of their courses. But yeah, the boot camp itself, it's like you're in kind of like a cohort with, you know, a group of other people, and you guys have like weekly assignments, and then by the end of it, you know, you have pretty good Farsi knowledge. So 6 weeks is a long time, you know, and the fact that she's providing so much value with, you know, the access to the subscription and the courses as well. Oh my god, it's so crinkled already, but you can see I'm learning to write. Actually, let me write something for you right now. This word represents a lot to me because it's a word that my boyfriend taught me before I knew how to write, and then with the letters and the stuff that Layla taught me in the Chai and Conversation course, I was like, I think I know how to write this word now, and I did it successfully. So here it is. Ta-da! Pasho. This means stand up. I think it literally means get on your feet, because pa is foot. So yeah, I'm super excited for this new chapter, even if it's short-lived. You know, I could finish this 6-week bootcamp. I could, you know, immerse myself fully and realize, you know, I don't really like the language. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I am gonna give it a good shot. Okay, well folks, that's about it for this video. I have spilled my personal life out to you. I have discussed my failures. That's big. What is it? What is a failure anyway? You know, one man's failure is another man's success. One man's trash is another man's treasure. That did, you know, even I couldn't even get that out straight. I knew that was bullshit. Okay, well, see you next time. Happy 2024. It's probably already 2024 this video is coming out, because let's be real, mama's kind of slow to edit. What are your goals and aspirations for 2024? Even if you just plan by quarter, or, you know, by year halves, or the whole year, whatever you do, let me know down in the comments what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish this year. Cuídense, bye.